Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Waste Talk series. As you all know, in this series, we talk about anything and everything waste. We talk about how to reduce waste, how to transform waste into something useful, and how to throw away waste when we actually have to throw it away, and much more. And today with me, I have Gillian. Gillian is a seasoned yoga instructor, and Gillian believes in simple living, simple and sustainable living. Hi, Gillian. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the Waste Talk series. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I just wanted to start out by saying that I love what you're doing. I feel like we're in a time in the world where we all want to create this shift when it comes to waste, and we're all looking for ways to make that more accessible. And so I really appreciate that you take your time and you have this podcast and you share this information. So thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. Yeah, so today we have very exciting topic. I'm talking to you. I'm very excited. The topic is attachment, waste, and yoga. How attachment causes waste and yoga can help us in resolving it. So let's dive right into the topic and questions. So my first question to you is, how do you think attachment to material things contribute to the problem of waste? How do you think, attachment is really causing this waste?
Well, I think that we all live in a world of attachment where we think that more is better, that we've been brought up. Maybe it's the last few generations where we started to get really comfortable with stuff, trying to make our lives easier and easier. So I think we just are attached, right? So I think it is a big problem with consumption because a lot of things now are made very cheaply, inexpensively, and so we're replacing things often, right? And so I think the fact that we feel like we need to have more and more actually creates dis-ease in our life. And so we never feel satisfied. And so we think that we're getting something out of attaching to more and more things in our life, more and more material things, instead of looking inward and trying to figure out, what's missing, what we're lacking inside that makes us feel that we want these outside things to make us feel comfortable.
Yeah, it has become so easy to get new things. You want a new dress, you just go to the store and get it, right? Yeah, and replace it. And there is a competition as well between peers, friends.
Yes.
We just want to have more.
Yes, and then we get dopamine from that, right? Every time we make that purchase, we
Yeah.
feel good for that instant. And so that's something we were taught when I became a yoga instructor. I can remember one of the gurus telling us a story about chocolate cake, and he kept telling us for about a week straight, I'm going to tell you about chocolate cake. I'm going to tell you. And all of us are like, we're living in an ashram, so all we're thinking about is chocolate cake, right? And so we're starting to create this attachment to the idea of chocolate cake. And then he finally sits down and tells us a story, and he talks about, what's the best chocolate cake that you've ever had, and imagine eating it and that feeling. And we get this every time we purchase something, or we bring something into our lives that generally most of the time we don't need, and then how fast that feeling actually goes away. So the minute you take that bite, and then what's the next thing you think about the chocolate cake? I want another bite, and then I want another bite, and then you've eaten the whole thing before even experiencing the joy of the chocolate cake, and the chocolate cake's gone, and then you think, what do I want? I want another piece of chocolate cake, right? And so that's attachment. That's that feeling of we want more and more, but it's actually making us unsatisfied, not satisfied, because like the chocolate cake, the feeling goes away so quickly.
Yeah, very well said. This is just momentary, right? In 5 minutes or so, your chocolate cake is done and you are wanting more. You are still not satisfied. So you did this virtually, not you did not really eat chocolate cake.
Yeah, no, he gave us no chocolate cake, but we all wanted chocolate cake. But it always stuck with me about attachment because we do whatever it is in our lives. And sometimes we attach to people, but right now we're in this, like I mentioned earlier, this place of comfort where we're really, as human beings, attaching to things, right? We can go on Amazon and it can be in our doorstep by tomorrow. We can go on to Temu and all of a sudden we're paying 50 cents on the dollar for thousands of pieces of jewelry that we'll only wear once, right? And so right now, it's not about the cake, it's about the things that are going to live on this planet longer than we are. And we don't take the time to think about the consequences to purchasing those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just like I was talking about dresses or something, you always want to buy more, own more, and people see you with your, how much you have. So you have 10 dresses, you want to buy another 11th one. You just go to a store, and then you just cannot stop yourself until you think about this feeling of attachment, that this is just momentary, and you want to discard the earlier one, you keep getting the new one. That's how you just keep getting more and more and more, and that is never ending thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I don't think it has to be that way, right? I do believe that we're moving away from that. And even having these conversations brings up that awareness that we probably shouldn't be living that way. Even if we just think about our children and our children's children, and that they have to live here on this planet, right? And we're consuming so much more than this planet can actually handle. And so, yeah, I don't know if you follow astrology in any way, but we recently were in the age of the Pisces, and the Pisces was all about comfort. And now we've moved into Aquarius. And so Aquarius is this new age where we're going to grow and expand, and become enlightened. And so I always think about waste when I think about that, about the Pisces is this, these people of just consuming and having all this waste, but it's okay because we're shifting, and all of a sudden we're all, at least at the very least, we're at the starting framework where we're talking all the time. We're starting to see all of these videos come out on social media where we understand where this garbage is going. And it's, even when we think things are being recycled here, how many of those things are actually recycled or just shipped away somewhere, right? And so that's the start to make the change. And it's going to be hard change, I think, because we're comfortable. And yeah,
That
hard to
was
make
just
change.
music to ears. We are moving from the comfort age to the enlightenment age. And that's great to
Yeah.
hear. Yeah. Sometimes we just can't think that less is more. And that segues into our next question. In yoga, we have different philosophies, and there is a philosophy of non attachment. How do you think that this non attachment philosophy can guide us towards way of more sustainable living?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. I mean, obviously, there's two things. There's all these steps we can use in yoga to help us detach from things. And I think that there's two things that have been really connective for me. And the first is about experience versus things. So as you know, you come to my yoga classes all the time, and I will quote things like, all we take with us when we leave this world is found in our heart. So it's inside of us. So it's that deep understanding that material things don't go with us when we leave, when our soul goes somewhere else. And so to actually use money to have experience rather than have things weighs the other direction for me, because I want that for myself and my family. So that's one thing. And one that always stood out to me is generosity. And I always thought that was so interesting because growing up, I always thought that generosity meant giving things, not just giving, but giving things. And so when, my mom would be like, oh, here's the neighbor's Christmas gift. They're getting this. Your teachers are getting this stuff, 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 stuff. Everywhere is just about stuff. And then when I really sat in that place of what generosity means, it's so much more, right? Generosity can be helping someone, and it can be kind words. And so in the Buddhist tradition, they really believe that the more generous you are, the more you detach from those material things. So now if I'm in a place of consumption, wanting to consume a lot of things, going into that headspace of, well, how can I be generous instead? If I'm going to take something in, what can I give away that's not stuff, that is not related at all to stuff? So maybe I'm volunteering my time, or I'm telling someone how much I appreciate them. And so as soon as I do that, I shift out of the place of wanting those things, because now I'm in this beautiful heart space of connecting with other humans. And so it's kind of like an addiction, right? Or you're doing things that take you away from the want.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Christmas is the best time to think about this. You just they don't need to give materialistic things. You can also give experiences. Your time is the best thing that you can give away to
Yeah.
people. So you are saying you are getting addicted to this mindset.
Yeah,
With
well,
it.
either, or I'm trying to pull myself out of, because we're all in the consumption addiction, right? It's just so easy and you don't even think about it. You just want a coffee and you go to Starbucks and then you're driving home and you're like, I'm now using a paper cup with a plastic lid that I didn't even think about,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, it's trying to pull yourself out of the waste addiction into a different space, which is the work.
Well, this one is a good addiction to have.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, so you mentioned coffee mug, and that reminds me, we always say that we can always take our own coffee mug when we are going to have coffee at a Starbucks or Tim Hortons, wherever. But we just don't have that habit. I mean, we cannot create that habit easily. So, what do you think? Reducing waste is more about habits, changing habits, or changing mindset? What are your thoughts on this?
I think that I started to change habits first, and I found it really challenging. I found that I got down on myself a lot because I really care, like I really care about the earth and I love trees and I just think, it's such a beautiful place and we're so lucky to be here and I don't want to play a part of being someone who's destroying it at a rapid rate. And so I have this guilt that lives inside and then I'll try and change habits, but then when I don't follow through, like bringing my cup to Starbucks, then I get really low on myself. So recently, in the last few years, I've actually shifted that mindset to be about the mindset rather than the habit. Um, I don't know if you've ever read this book. So there's this book called The Soul of Money. Have you
Mhm.
ever read it?
No, I haven't heard about it, but now I will read it.
Okay, it's really good. So the woman who wrote it, her name is Linda Twist, and she was a fundraiser for, I think it was the World Hunger Project. So she did lots of fundraising to help, she believe that there's enough food to feed everyone in the world. And so she wrote this book about money and about your relationship with money and that money is energy and where you give money, you're giving energy to. And so if you use it in a negative way, then you're putting that energy into the world. And for me, something like that, going back to my mindset of how I spend my money, started to create foundational work to change my habits. Because then instead of maybe going to Starbucks, I might, you know, make the coffee at home because that felt like a better place to put the
Isn't it?
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, or supporting local businesses for things like makeup and stuff like that, because I can walk back up and hand them the containers and they'll reuse them where I can't do that if I order it on Amazon or somewhere else. But in my heart, what I'm feeling is I love this local person out there living their life and trying to make the world a better place. So I'm going to use money positively to help someone that I've connected with. And so, in that sense, I think the roundabout way of using money as energy has actually helped me in trying not to waste it on wasteful stuff, I guess.
Yeah, so it kind of change your mindset and then it help you to change your habits as well eventually. Rather
Yes.
than buying coffee, you started making it at home and
Yeah.
supporting local business and all that, right? Yeah, eventually if you cannot change your mindset, you cannot change habits. And this comes with this produce bag as well. We all take the reusable bag now to stores because it is banned, but sometimes I don't remember the produce bag that
Mhm.
also saves some plastic, right? So but every time I try to take it, that used to happen. I should have 4 or 5 produce bags in with me, but I will forget it, and then sometimes I will bring in plastic bags, or sometimes I will come back empty handed so that I can get next time. So just because I think about it, because my mindset is like that, that I want to reduce waste, I sometimes came back empty handed as well. And then I created a process for myself that every time my produce bags and reusable bags should always be in the car. I'm going for grocery or not. So if I'm going for grocery, they are handy for me. They are there and I will use it. So just because of that mindset, I could create that habit. Habit
Yes.
cannot change my mindset, right? So
Yes.
Yeah, very well
It's
said, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true, right? And it's so interesting, especially with bags at the grocery store alone, because most of us didn't have that mindset at all until someone told us we can't use them anymore. And then all of a sudden, I can remember the instant switch when I'd forget my bags. They'd say, "Do you want to buy a bag?" And I'd say, "Oh no, this is my way of putting it in my mind to bring a bag." Every time I carry 20 groceries out in my hand is my reminder to bring your bag from the car. I
Yeah.
can't make the habit unless I truly believe in the fact that I cannot just purchase another bag because there's enough of them in the world.
Yeah. And
Right?
same with the water bottle, just because I care, I carry my water bottle everywhere. Even if I'm going to a party and I know they will have those disposable bottles, I kind of carry it because that reduces at least one bottle over
Yes.
there, right? That's in my mind. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm. So you were already talking about your book and money little bit. How do you think money influences our way how we consume things and how we create waste and how that can change?
Well, I mean, first off, I think that there is this weird correlation between money and things, and having stuff, right? Looking like you own a lot of things makes you feel like you're more well off, maybe, than your neighbor, in the place that we're at right now in this world. And so we have to switch that mindset because that's not true. Uh, and I know social media and we see pretty things all the time and we want that fancy lifestyle. But that is a big problem with the correlation between waste and money right now is the wanting more. What do they call it? Like keeping up with the Joneses, right? And trying to look better or brighter. Than we need to because as human beings, we don't actually need a lot of things. We just need the basics. And I think as we get older, we start to realize that, right? But when we're young, we're very movies, TV, now social media, we're very influenced by that. And that's shown a lot on what we see in front of us all of the time. So it's very challenging.
Yeah, when we are growing, we are exploring the world, but as we grow, we kind of realize that maybe we don't need all this much. Yeah. So you talked about we want to have more, like money. We want to show everyone that I have money. That reminds me one scene, one dialogue from the Crazy Rich Asian movie. So
Hmm.
it was a very rich people were shown there, right, in that movie. And that guy says that I'm going to buy that masterpiece for $1 million or something. And then his friend asked, why are you buying it? What would you do with it? And he said, just because I can buy.
Yeah.
And there is no need of it. So that's how we want to show off everyone that I can buy this and I have this now. So that is the value we attach to that small thing.
Yeah. And we see that with like the top 1% of people who own all the money in the world, right? They just buy crazy things all the time. And you just watch them. They could do such amazing things in the world and take care of people, but they choose just to have stuff. And none of us want to be those people. So I think that that's a good reminder, right? We don't want to be that person who just spends $1 million on a
Exactly.
little masterpiece because we can. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really challenging question when it comes to m- money in general, right? And where we sit in society. I think we just need to have more content like your content out there in the world so that we start seeing different things. And I don't know about you, but I feel like my social media pages are changing, and that might just be who I am, but I see this kind of stuff all of the time now, and a lot of wellness focused, a lot of spiritual focused content, which is really uplifting and beautiful and different than, hey, you should buy this, and
Yeah.
look at how pretty I am wearing this.
Yeah, like we say, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Whatever you are, you will see only those things. Same with me. Yeah, so I see a lot of waste related, reducing waste things, how we can do all those things. So again, yeah, I mean, we can, here we can talk about, you're talking about your personal social media. So in this, in this social media life, modern living, how do you personally balance living in this world? Uh, with the desire to live more simply and sustainably. You mentioned that you want to live that way, but it becomes a bit difficult sometimes. How do you balance that?
I mean, every day we just have to make a choice, right? I don't ever want to come on a podcast and say that I'm perfect at waste
Nobody's
reduction.
perfect, and we don't need to
Yeah,
be perfect. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's just, if you have the thought in your mind that you care, then every time something comes across you, you get to decide, right? So you use a Ziploc bag and you're done with it and you're holding it and you could just put it in the garbage or you could just put it in the sink and you can wash it and reuse it and, get a lot more out of that one product, um, than, yeah, than a lot of people are.
Yeah.
And one thing that came up for me recently that I had no idea about, I was talking about recycling and how even the things we think we're recycling. My sister-in-law was over, I was washing out a yogurt cup and she said, "You can't recycle that." And I said, "What?" And so I had always, right, my kids eat little yogurts and I put them in that blue bag constantly. And the minute she said, "You can't recycle that," I was like, well, then I can't buy
Because
this.
it's too small, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So then I was just like, well, I can't buy this anymore. So I had to create the mind switch. Okay, well, now we put yogurt in bowls because we're not, that plastic will live in the dumpster longer than I will live here. And that's a real problem, right?
Yeah, so you said very well, you have to make choices. And
Mhm.
initially it becomes difficult. I was not into this lifestyle way back. I did not know about waste. It's a couple of years when I realized that waste is a problem. And then I learned and I started doing different things. In the beginning, people kind of tell you, you don't need to do that. You are crazy, all those things. So as I mentioned, I carry my water bottle everywhere, even if I go to parties. So even for my office gathering or other gatherings, I started taking my own plate and cutlery, spoons and forks, so that I can save at least one. I know 100 people are eating there. We still have other disposable plates, but I'm happy with just one. And maybe I also think that others will see and maybe will be inspired as well. So in the beginning, I used to find it a bit difficult, hesitating, but now I just do it and nobody says anything because they have accepted me that way. So in
Yes.
the beginning, it might be difficult, but eventually it is okay.
Well, and then it changes for everyone. Like I'm standing here with a water bottle that I take everywhere too. And when we were younger, I mean, 15 years ago, nobody carried a water bottle anywhere they went, right? And so the fact that now that's such a common thing to see is the more you make that change and other people look at you and they see, I want to be like that, then that change actually shifts.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you
Yeah,
have to get into that uncomfortable place,
right.
right?
A lot of people think that this is not needed at all because they don't see instant change. This is changing anything instantly, right? Oh, everybody, when one is creating waste, there is a lot of waste. I alone cannot do things. Those are also a lot of people cannot think about it, but we have to change our mindset towards
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I don't know what the saying is, but it's like there's nothing more powerful than one person with a big idea or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that one person can absolutely change the world because that's what happens is that people start to follow along. They start to watch the podcast, listen to the content, make that one choice to, yeah, bring a cup to Starbucks. Just not shop all the things. Just realize that we don't need to teach our kids that Christmas, we're in that Christmas season, is about stuff, right?
Mhm.
Because that's
That's
not
right.
the underlying message.
Yeah.
It's
No,
about
my
giving.
my kids have learned from me, so they're asking, "Mommy, you will buy something for us, right?" So they're more into clothes and more eatables, chocolate, chips, whatever. They're happy. They want to celebrate Christmas, that feeling of Christmas, and we have a Christmas tree as well, but nothing so much like gathering of
Yeah.
materialistic things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. My children too. We're taking our kids to Mexico this year,
Yeah.
which in one way feels experience, but also it's still a lot of waste, right? You think about the balance of when you go somewhere and people are feeding you and there's lots of takeout containers and, you know, all the
And
stuff.
that's okay. That is there is a beautiful saying we were just talking about that. one person doesn't have to do everything. We want millions of people to do at least something, and that will change the world. So I am not perfect. You are not perfect. I mean, we are
Yeah.
also human beings, but at least thinking about it, reducing waste, and being mindful, it also, is important.
Yes. Yeah. And we get to choose every single time, every single thing we purchase, everything we throw out, we get to decide what we do with that, right? And yeah, that message alone gets passed along, then that's a big message.
Okay, with that, I'm going to ask you the very important question now. Do you think waste reduction can become a spiritual practice in itself?
Do you think so?
I do think so. I will share my thoughts, but I will let you speak first.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think when you realize that the earth is alive and that you're part of an ecosystem, and if you want to call Mother Earth Gaia or connect in some way to this beautiful planet that we live on, if you can take that into your heart and just feel the abundance and the love and the oneness, I think when we come into spirituality, when you start to realize that everything is just one. We're just one giant ecosystem living together. And when you look out in nature and everything supports each other in such a beautiful way, and when we fall out of that alignment and we start over consuming and not supporting in the way that we should, then we're out of balance with our own spirituality and the spirituality of the whole planet, right? So if you can connect to that feeling of Mother Earth as part of your spirituality, then why wouldn't you want to protect her and this planet, everything in it?
That's right. So this is one word, and we have to take care of it. And it starts with us, with me, right?
Yeah.
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 So yeah, I also think, first of all, we have to believe in this, right? That waste is a problem and I need to reduce waste. And after that, each and every act of reducing waste is a vote towards being spiritual. For example, if I'm just carrying my own bottle, that is one vote towards my being spiritual about waste. And then taking my plates to office, or taking a reusable bag, or using the Ziploc multiple times. All these acts are towards this waste spiritualism. I just, I think I devised this
Yeah.
term. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I,
it's so true, right? And you just become in touch with, yeah, doing good in the world and taking care of everything, and that's just so beautiful for spiritual evolution.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We need to believe in this, and we can definitely do it. So,
Yeah.
do you want to give any message to your audience?
The one thing that you brought up that we maybe skimmed over a little that I think was so important was that a lot of people think that they won't make a difference. And that's really important that people understand that one person makes a difference. And if we do make that choice to do something different, then
Yeah,
yeah, then we can make a change. So I think that people need to take that message that that one person in the world, you can make the choice and you can make the difference to just contribute a little, whatever you can that day, that week. And that's how we change the world.
yeah. Even small things matter. Yeah.
Yeah,
A wonderful discussion, Gillian. I love talking to you about this. So such an important topic. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with me today, and I hope our audience will take away something from this. And we'll talk again on some other topic. Thank
that's
you.
so great. Thank you so much for having me.